Is this what you call loyalty? Explain it!
Dad. Nate, please, it's not what it looks like.
Oh, you need to back off right now.
My phone buzzed at 6:40 on a Thursday, and the world slid sideways. Work trip got extended. Back Sunday, Lena texted. No hello, no sorry. Just that. I was standing in the kitchen staring at a sink that groaned like a smoker every time the faucet turned, eating dry cereal with my fingers because the bowls were in the dishwasher. I typed back, thumb steady. That is funny. The company posted photos, they are all home. I hit send and leaned against the counter like a man listening to the ocean in a shell, 15 minutes stretched like a cheap bungee. Then she called, crying, the kind of performative tears you can hear even when you cannot see them. Nate, this is a mess, she said. Flights got changed. There was a mix-up. The hotel Wi-Fi is awful. I can barely hear you. I hear you fine, I said. You are in a tunnel of your own making. She hung up on a gulp of air. My screen lit up with a rideshare notification I did not ask for. Family plan, shared notifications, the little crumbs couples forget exist when they start acting like singles. Drop-off complete. Oceanside Row. Oceanside Row was not a hotel. It was a block of new condos down by the old pier, where the wind smells like wet rust and salt and fresh concrete. I stared at the word complete and felt something inside me snap into a new shape, like a bone setting in a bad place. I put on my jacket, grabbed my cheap spiral notebook, and told the elevator to be kind for once. It coughed, it wheezed, and it let me out into rain that came down as if the sky was done pretending to be patient. I have worked in rooms that smell like burnt plastic and frustration, crawling under desks, tracing cable runs that were installed by someone who lied on a resume and prayed no one would look. I know a lie when I see one. It hums, it leaks, it makes the lights flicker. In my head, I wrote a ticket for the night, like I was on call for my own life. Problem: inconsistent signal between husband and wife. Steps taken: verify source. Expected outcome: clean cutover or shutdown. I locked the door behind me and walked down 3 flights because stairs make sense when elevators have moods. On the corner, a bus sighed. On the wet glass of the cafe I passed, I saw my face with too much focus in the eyes. I did not look like a man losing something. I looked like a man who found the manual he did not know he had been missing. I cut through the lot behind my building where puddles kept small galaxies of oil. A bus shelter ad told me about a bank that cares. The glass was cracked. The rain pushed the ad flat anyway. I thought about the years of small things that make a marriage look sturdy. You do not lose the house in a storm. You lose it a nail at a time. I had missed the nails backing out because I was busy fixing other people's stupid printers. At the corner, I waited for the light, even though no cars came. It felt important to obey something simple. A police cruiser idled by, and the officer gave me a bored look that said, "There are 100 of you out here tonight, men walking with their hands in their pockets, trying to walk a feeling off their skin." I nodded. He nodded back. The light changed, and I crossed like I was allowed to be alive. My apartment smelled like dust warmed by baseboard heaters. I stood in the doorway a second, listening for anything that did not belong. Silence is its own sound. I put my notebook on the table and wrote the date and the weather in one sentence. The world told the truth, and she did not. It felt childish and clear, which is to say honest. I checked the front door camera Joel installed last winter. Motion at 6:15, a delivery guy leaving a package for 4B. Motion at 7:02, a drunk singing the same line from the same song as if the rest of the lyrics had died. I saved the clips for no reason, except I was saving everything now. Even my own heartbeat felt like a file I might need later. By the time I reached Oceanside Row, the rain had decided to go all in. The streetlights threw halos like saints who had fallen on hard times. I stood there and watched my breath and told myself that nothing about tonight would be a secret. Secrets are roaches. You turn on the light and they run. I had a thumb on the switch. Before we continue, hit the hype button, subscribe, and like the video to help the channel grow. Tell us which city you are from in the comments. We'd love to get to know our audience better. Oceanside Row has a lobby that pretends it is a hotel anyway. There is a bowl of lemons on a marble table and a pamphlet about community yoga. I did not need a key fob to read a clipboard that sat right there behind the plastic fern. Visitor parking log, date, time, license plate, unit number if you know it. I read it like it was a fortune. A black coupe signed in for spot V12 at 612. Unit 5C, no name. People think no name is privacy. It is only a hat over your face in a room where everyone knows you're... I stepped back outside and breathed cold air that bit my teeth. From the public sidewalk, through the glass of the garage ramp, I saw her. Lena in her camel coat, hood up, hair tucked, walking next to a tall man in gym clothes. He carried a duffel like he was ready for a quick exit. He hit the fob and the kupi winked at him. They disappeared into an elevator alcove painted the same gray as guilt. I filmed 30 seconds on my phone from the sidewalk. Legal, boring, perfect. When you are a field tech, you learn the difference between what people think is private and what the world actually is. I make routers behave for small offices and talk landlords through why their cameras are not backed up like they promised. Joel, my building super, likes me because I can make the laundry app stop double charging. You pick up tricks, you keep your head down, you watch, you take notes, you do not kick doors. Now, back home, Joel lent me a ladder for no reason, except he likes to help. "Stay out of trouble, Nate," he said, and handed me a dash cam he found in Lost and Found. I knew the tall man, not from real life. From photos on Lena's agency Instagram where everyone smiles like their teeth are paid by the client. Tall man next to Lena at a gala, chin tilted, wedding ring shining. Owen Vale, vice president of a partner firm, married. The word tasted like cold iron. 2 for 1, I thought, and the rain approved by slapping the sidewalks. I do not own binoculars. You do not need them when glass has become a hobby in modern architecture. The garage mouth framed their walk like a stage. People tell on themselves by how they walk. Lena kept glancing sideways as if eye contact could keep him real. Owen walked like a man who had never been caught doing anything, which is the only time you get that kind of stride. Confidence without a bill. I texted Mara a photo of the clipboard and she wrote back a single word. Careful. I put the phone away and took photos of the posted garage rules and tow policy, because paper beats talk when talk becomes shouting. A security camera watched the ramp with a red light that never blinks and never cares. I waved at it anyway, for the joke only I would get later when I replayed this night to myself trying to sleep. At the bodega on the corner, the owner keeps a jar of pennies for people who fall short. He saw me wet and half smiling and said, "Lottery is a tax on hope. Do not buy it." I bought a bottle of water and thanked him for the sermon. Hydration is a good idea when you plan to do cardio in a stairwell later. I stood under the awning across the street and let the sleeves of my jacket wick cold up my arms. There was a coffee cart with a barista who looked like he was born tired. I bought an Americano and burned my tongue on the first sip, because self-control does not cover everything. When the elevator swallowed them, I wrote down times. Small numbers build large pictures. People forget that. They want one big smoking gun. Juries like a line of little guns better. I was not building a court case. I was building a spine to hold up the end of a marriage so it would not fall on my foot. I wrote my rules on the first page of the spiral in fat black ink. Rule 1, seen. Rule 2, named. Rule 3, consequenced. I did not write revenge. Revenge is a movie. Consequence is a to-do list you can actually check off. I called my sister Mara. She was at the ER on a break, eating a protein bar that probably tasted like cardboard and virtue. I told her the outline of things, not the music, just the notes. "Do not get arrested," she said. "Bring your stuff here if you need to. You can take the couch. And whatever you do, do not break anything that puts you in a cell." "I am not breaking anything," I said. "I am opening curtains." I bought a burner phone with cash from the pharmacy that sells everything up to and including a bike lock. I bought the bike lock too. I printed a sheet of paper that said courtesy notice. Aggressive parking from the condo website, because they had a PDF there for residents to put on windshields when someone acted like a king of asphalt. I took nitrile gloves because I do not like glitter on my skin. Then my laptop pinged. Years ago, I had helped Lena set up her calendars to sync. It was not a spy act. It was a marriage act. 3 heart emojis in the description. The work trip had a hard stop. It ended here, in my city, in her secret. I closed the laptop and laughed once with no humor in it at all. I printed the rules a second time on the next page because sometimes you need to see the words again to make them real. Seen, named, consequenced. Not burned, not sued, not arrested. I wrote under them, "Stay boring. Boring wins arguments, and boring gets you home." I laid out what I would not do. No trackers, no breaking locks, no reading of private messages beyond what shows itself on shared devices that we both had reason to set up. The mundane is a powerful weapon because no one notices you swinging it. Mara texted a photo of her shoes with hospital dust on them and said, "I will back you until the line where my license starts to shake. Do not make me choose between you and that." I promised her I would not. I meant it. The pharmacy clerk was bored and young and asked if the burner phone was for international travel. "It is so I can stop getting spam calls," I said, and he nodded like that was the purest truth he had heard all day. In a way it was. I went online and read the condo association bylaws for an hour because boring is a scalpel. They were publicly posted and dense as cold toast. Section 7.4 about visitor parking was going to become my favorite bedtime story. It spelled out towing criteria, alarm procedures, and the acceptable font for notices residents can place on windshields. Helvetica, I laughed. Of course it was. I made a list of the tools I had and the tools I should not use. The first list was short. The second list was long and included anything that made me feel like a hero. No heroics. That is where men go to jail or to the morgue or into the kind of tabloids you have to hide behind a cereal box. I packed a simple bag and put it by the door. Clean shirt, socks, a phone charger, a copy of my lease, a flashlight, and $40 in an envelope. Not because I was running, because it makes you calm to know you can. The bag sat by the door like a small dog waiting for instructions. Before bed, I walked the hall and checked the stairwell door to make sure it latched. I told Joel about the loose strike plate, and he wrote it down on a pad that has names and numbers from before I moved in. He is from a time when you write something down and that makes it real. I like that time. I am trying to live there again. After they left, I stood in the vestibule and watched the automatic door close. A kid pressed his face to the glass from the outside and made a fish mouth. I made one back, and he laughed, and his mother pulled him along by the hand. It felt like someone else's life for a second. The kind where people make faces at kids and then go home to apartments that are not missing a person who is still alive. Harborview is glass and chrome, and the kind of place that puts the price of the oyster on a small card like it is a dare. I waited in the vestibule where the wind tries to sneak in every time the door opens. When Lena came through, I stepped to the side and she nearly walked into me. "We should talk," I said. Her eyes went wide and then small. "Here is not." "Here is perfect," I said. I showed her the 30-second clip. I did not speak over it. The sound had only rain and tires, and that was enough. "It is complicated," she said. "It is not," I said. "End it tonight. Tell him to stay out of our neighborhood for a month. I am not a priest. I am giving you a calendar." She looked toward the elevators like she could climb into the shaft and live with the cables. The doors opened, and Owen stepped out with that small smile people wear when they think they know the game. "So you are the IT guy," he said. "That is me," I said. "I keep things connected." I brushed by him like a stranger and stood in the draft as if nothing mattered at all. What I did matter, though. In the bump, my fingers had learned the shape of his pocket. When I stepped away, my palm contained his car fob. He did not notice. He was too busy smirking at his reflection in the glass. Lena smelled like the same perfume she had worn since college, and it knocked me back for a second into a better time before the rot. Memory is a liar, too. It only remembers what gets it applause. I had to stay in the present like a driver in a fog. "This is not the place," she said. "This is exactly the place," I said. "Public. Clean. Cameras to testify if anyone decides to pretend gravity works different when they are angry." Owen kept the smile on like a tie. "You think you have something," he said. "I have a to-do list," I said. "You are on it, but you are not the top task." Lena reached for my hand and stopped when I did not move. "Nate, please, we can fix this." "You cannot fix a cracked mirror by telling it you believe in it," I said. "You get a new mirror, or you learn to love the crooked view. Choose, but do it honest." A couple on their way out brushed by us and left a trail of perfume and red wine. The host pretended not to hear anything, because that is the job. I saw our reflections in the door. We looked like a movie poster for a film no one wanted to pay to see. "You do not have to do this," Lena said. "I am not the one who has to do anything," I said. "You do. Start by telling him he is a bad idea and end by meaning it." Owen stepped in close enough that I could smell mint gum. "You need to be careful," he said. "I am the careful one," I said. "Ask anyone. Ask your mechanic soon." At midnight, the condo garage was mostly empty. The fluorescent tubes hummed like bees drunk on windshield washer fluid. I pressed the fob until the black coupe flashed. I crouched under it with a handful of zip ties and looped one around the edge of the drive shaft boot and a bracket so that when the car moved it would flap and slap and make a noise that says something expensive just broke. Harmless. Loud. Annoying like a mosquito that knows your ear canal. I pulled the cabin air filter and fed in glitter confetti like it was a message in a bottle. Not the sharp metallic stuff. Paper. Messy, harmless, immortal. When he turned on the AC, his interior would look like a unicorn sneezed. I printed the courtesy notice and slid it under the wiper. I put a Polaroid under it, the sidewalk shot of Owen and Lena heading into the garage. Proof without narration. The security guard walked in on me standing there admiring my work. I nodded. He nodded. We were men who loved the dumb theater of rules. Yuck, I walked away like I belonged, and halfway up the ramp the car shrieked to life. Someone had started it from inside. Maybe curious, maybe paranoid. The noise of my zip tie percussion thumped through the garage like a bad drumline, and the alarm began to cry. I did not run. Running is for guilt. I simply left through a door that opened onto the polite lying lobby, and I could have keyed the coupe. I did not. That would be a story Owen could tell about me for the rest of his life, and I want to be the one who tells the story. Glitter and a false mechanical noise are children of inconvenience, not rage. They live in the space where a man has to explain himself to a detail shop clerk while people with clean cars watch. When the alarm started, a woman in slippers came down the elevator with a dog the size of a baked potato. The dog yapped at me as if I had invented alarms. The woman said sorry and then looked back at the coupe as if it had offended her on some personal level. In the stairwell, I heard a door slam and someone swear that everything always happens to them. On my walk back to the street, I passed a poster for a neighborhood meeting about dock redevelopment. The pier would become a market with artisanal bread and artisanal opinions. For now it was a skeleton with wet boards and a habit of making you look at the horizon and wonder how far you could walk before the ocean told you to go home. In the morning, I checked the news just to see if the garage incident made it to the community crime blotter. It did not. Real life is shy. It does not climb up on stage unless it has to. The posts were the same old list of porch pirates and bad parking and a raccoon the size of a small bear. I sipped coffee and felt steady. On the way home, I stopped for a slice at a shop that advertises itself as the best in the city. They are not. They are open late. The kid at the counter called me boss, and I let him because it made him feel like he was doing customer service, and it made me feel like a man. The slice was too hot, and the cheese burned the roof of my mouth in exactly the same spot the coffee had. Pain that small is like punctuation. It reminds you that you are writing this with your body as much as your brain. I slept on the couch because the bed had Lena in it, even if it did not. I put the burner on the coffee table and set an alarm on my normal phone and woke up every hour anyway because sleep and I were not friends. Tessa Vale got an anonymous package the next morning. I know because I sent it signature required to the address that the county registrar lists for her and Owen. Inside the small box was a USB stick with 3 clips of ordinary things. Owen and Lena entering the garage. Owen leaving alone at 3 a.m., Lena leaving at 6:10 a.m. Aha. In the note, printed in block letters, I wrote, "Check your shared phone plan location settings from last year." That was all. I never wrote the word affair. People need to discover C. Lena texted, "We need to talk?" I replied, "Bring a witness." She did not answer for a while. Then an unknown number appeared. "Who are you?" it asked. I typed neighbor. I erased it. I typed he lies. I sent that. 3 dots appeared, jittery, like a small fish caught midstream. Then the dots went away. I put the phone face down and made coffee that tasted like pennies. I made the package at my table with scissors that stick where the glue dried 50 times. The USB held only the clips and a text file with a date and time. No commentary. I wore nitrile gloves, not because my fingerprints are a problem, but because acting careful makes you act careful. I know phone plans because I set them up for people who do not want to read the user agreement. Families share locations until they fight, then they forget they shared locations. Carriers keep logs for a while. You do not need a hacker. You need a login and the patience to click 3 layers deep. When the unknown number wrote to ask, "Who are you?" I saw the area code and knew it was Tessa. I almost said, "I am your friend." That would have been another lie in a week already full of them. So I told one true word. He lies. Sometimes you can hand someone a small stone and they build their own house with it. The courier pickup driver asked what was in the box. "Old photos," I said. He nodded. People like stories that are about the past because they can pretend the ending is safe and known. I typed the note on my old keyboard and printed it 3 times because the first 2 had smudges where my hand dragged. I did not want to leave anything that looked like a flourish. Flourishes are how people get found when they should have stayed small. When Lena wrote, "Bring a witness," I laughed and then put the phone down because laughing alone looks like crying from across the room. Owen went to a storage unit that afternoon. I did not follow him in. I sat in my car across the street with Joel's dash cam running and wrote down the unit number when he punched the pad. Storage is a religion for people who cannot stop buying altars to themselves. I timed the trash pickup on their street. Saturday at 5 a.m. meant bags went out Friday night. I took a gentle walk past his curb after dark and lifted 2 tied bags from the public pile. The law says once you give it to the curb, you give up. Back at my kitchen table, I sorted. Motel receipts not in the city, single-use toothbrush, grocery bag with a receipt for key duplication, a torn page with my address printed on it and directions scribbled underneath. That page did not feel like trash. It felt like a map to my living room from a man who thought he was the hero of a story I was writing. I set it aside as you would set aside a snake. At the storage lot, a man in a golf cart watched everyone like a hawk who knew his kingdom was mostly dust. I sat with a cup of gas station coffee that tasted like a tire and watched license plates. When Owen typed the code, I leaned forward enough to see the way his hand shook. Not scared. Angry men shake when their own body reminds them it is not a perfect machine. I thought about my apartment and the page with directions to it. I pictured him on my couch while I was out fixing a router for a law office with a water stain that looks like a map of a country no one wants to visit. I pictured Lena there with him holding my mug that says, "Keep it simple" in a font meant to sell t-shirts. I put the page back in the envelope and wrote in the spiral, "Secure home." Then I changed the locks that night with Joel standing in the hall saying, "It is your place. You do not need a..." Joel brought me a new deadbolt from the hardware store he likes because they still cut keys by hand on a grinding wheel that screams like a haunted blender. He stood in the doorway while I worked and told me about a neighbor who left a candle burning and slept through his own smoke alarm. "I like boring men," Joel said. "They do not make me fill out forms." I told him I was trying to become the most boring man in town. He said, "So far, results are mixed," and handed me the tiny screws that always roll under the stove. They came to my building close to midnight. I watched them through the peephole. Lena, with her hands stuffed in her coat like pockets, could hide guilt. Owen with a look that said he loved winning even when he did not know the rules. He knocked like a cop. "We just want to talk," Lena said. "Talking at the door is free," I said. "Inside is for people who do not lie to me." Owen rattled the fire door at the end of the hall. He should not have known it opened, but this building likes to help trouble. He pushed in, and I ran for the stairs. Concrete, metal rail, the hum of old lights. He chased. He was faster, but I was smarter. The heavy stair door swings one way, and if you time it, you can let it clip a man right in the shin. It clipped. He cursed. I took the next 3 steps, 2 at a time, and hit the roof access. On the roof, the wind was a slap that never ended. The next building over was a short jump if you believed in your knees. I believed just enough. I cleared it, rolled, and crouched behind an air handler, breathing like a dog after a hot car ride. Owen came through the door and saw me across the gap. I waved like a neighbor you do not like, but still have to nod to. He did not jump. He is not as dumb as his choices. He turned to go back down. "Looking for this," I said, and dropped a small metal key so it pinged on the stairs. The key I pulled from his trash pile, the one he copied for my lock. It slid down 2 steps and came to rest against his shoe. He glanced up at me. I smiled. He pocketed it. He did not smile back. He knocked like a man who thinks sound is power. The hallway carried it to every door and gave me a choir of eavesdroppers. I did not mind. Truth likes an audience if the acoustics are good. Lena tried again. "Please, Nate, let us explain." "You should not have to explain," I said. "If it was right, it would be simple. Simplicity is the language of right choices. Complexity is the dialect of liars." Owen went for the fire door, and I laughed without humor. Of course he knew the building better than some residents. Men like him map territory as soon as they smell it. On the roof, I looked across at the other rooftop and thought about high school long jumps. You learn to commit to the step, not the air. The air will do what it wants. The metal key pinging on the stairs when I dropped it was the most beautiful sound all week. He looked up at me with a face that said next time. I nodded to say there would not be a next time on my staircase. After he left, Lena texted me from the lobby asking if she could come up alone. I told her no, and when she wrote why I wrote, because I read the directions to my place in his garbage, and I am not grading on a curve anymore. She stopped texting for an hour after that. I made tea. I drank half and dumped the rest because the taste turned on me the way familiar things turn when you know they were used in a lie. I sat with the lights off because darkness saves you money. Sunday morning, I drank coffee that tasted like something a machine would confess to if it could. I opened my laptop and assembled a PDF like a polite bomb. Screenshots of public posts and timestamps, the rideshare notifications that went to our shared family email, photos of the condo visitor clipboard that anyone could read, my 30-second sidewalk video with the audio stripped. I wrote a cover email to Lena's HR and to the ethics contact at Owen's firm. Subject, clarification request retravel per. I hit send. The email went. Somewhere downtown, an inbox found a new piece of work and stretched its shoulders. At 1 p.m., Mara called. "She says they froze her card," she said. "They told her to stay home pending review. Nate, what did you do?" "I asked a question," I said. "Questions are free." The PDF took me 2 hours because I am fussy when I decide to be. I exported each screenshot at the same size. I put captions that did not accuse, only described. I made a table with dates and times and links to the public posts. I kept my tone like a man asking for clarification on a shipping address, because that tone gets answers. I did not mention Lena by name in the email to her HR. I mentioned a calendar entry that may involve a client and the post that suggested everyone else was already home. I asked if travel per diems covered stays that were not on the approved itinerary. I CC'd myself and BCC'd no one. Secrets are for the people on the other side. The sender should be clean. When Mara called to say the card was frozen, I thanked her. "Do not thank me," she said. "Thank your worst self for being so organized." She loves me the way only a sister can love a brother who has a talent for quietly blowing up rooms he is trapped in. I started a new document called Timeline. On it, I wrote everything I remembered for 6 months back. Dates of late meetings, nights she came home with hair that smelled like different shampoo than ours, days she was sweet for no reason, and mornings she was short over nothing. I did not need all of it. I needed enough of it to tell me that I had not imagined the slope. When I finished, I closed the laptop and lay on the couch with the lights off and the window open a crack. The rain did its steady file copy of the world. I slept like a machine that gets the job done but shuts down hard. When I woke, I had marks from the couch seam on my face. They looked like lines on a map leading away from here. Owen is not a man who likes being made to wait while other people read about him. He shouted my name into the wind. I let him see me, and then I ran, because running has its uses when you want to be seen running. He chased, and we climbed a parking deck that smelled like warm brake pads and rain. In the echoing hollow on level 4, I pulled the manual fire alarm. A loose wire in a hanging light had been sparking there for months. I had told the attendant twice. Now the alarm made it official. We jogged between pillars like we were in a dumb, low-budget remake of a better movie. He swung at my shoulder, and I let the door take the hit when I pulled it shut. He spit words I will not repeat. I stepped in and slapped him once, open palm, loud. It was not about pain, it was punctuation. "That is for texting my wife from my couch," I said into his ear so the camera would not catch my lips. I backed away while he gathered himself. When he reached his car, he found 4 white chalk marks on his tires. Fat letters that read "Seen" on the left front, named on the right front, consequenced on the left rear, and a question mark on the right rear. Security towed him for leaving his car blocking the lane during an active alarm. Rules are useful when you stop pretending they are about morality and admit they are about leverage. The pier is a half-mile of stories that never ended right. They tore out the carousel horses last spring, and you can still see circles where hooves wore grooves. I ran, and Owen ran, and we both sounded like men as old as we are, which is to say not old at all, but older than our pride wants us to admit. When I pulled the fire alarm, the deck lit with red bulbs that make everyone look guilty. Part of me wanted to bow to the empty cameras like I was a stage actor who still thinks the director might hire him again if he shows commitment. Owen swung wild. I pushed the heavy door, and it took the blow. He cursed in a language of vowels and bitterness. The slap I gave him was not a punch by another name. It was a thing you do to say, "I see you, and I will not let you pretend I do not." He felt it more in his face than in his skin. That is how humiliation works. It is a mirror you did not ask to see. The chalk on the tires was childish and grand at once. I printed the words in block letters, each a little crooked. The tow was automatic once security saw the tire marks and the alarm report. To be towed is to be told by a city that your time is not more valuable than the rules. He hated that most of all. A teenage couple made out under the stairwell in the deck while the alarm whooped. They broke apart when they saw me and tried to look like cousins who were very happy to see each other. I waved, they ran. Owen stared at me like I had stolen something from him that was supposed to be free. I walked away slow and did not look back when the tow truck hooked his car. I have learned that looking back is how you trip. Later, when I checked the deck cameras through the public access portal the city never locked down right, I watched us as if we were strangers in a training film about conflict de-escalation and bad choices. The slap looked smaller on screen. That is the thing about screens. They take the heat out and leave the shape. Tessa asked to meet Monday at 1. She chose a diner with good eggs and bad coffee. She was calmer than I expected. She wore a raincoat and the expression of someone who had thrown away the last of her illusions a month ago and found the air cleaner without them. She slid her phone to me with a finger resting on the top like a parent guiding a child across a street. Messages, screen-capped, starting months ago. The first direct message came from Lena, not from Owen. My stomach went cold and then solid. I am not naive, only hopeful in small, controlled doses. Seeing the proof felt like the moment you finally admit the smell in your fridge is not going away until you throw out the container you kept pretending was still fine. He did not start it, she said. He is guilty anyway. But I want you to understand who opened the door. I am leaving him. I have my own lawyer. I have no taste for theater. I want clean lines and a clean end. I showed her the storage unit number on my notepad and the photo of the keypad. She showed me the logs from our shared plan where Lena had used my old laptop to set up a new messaging account. My laptop, my password autofill. It explained the phantom logins I had seen months ago and blamed on updates. I took the hit like a man who walked into his own rake. Trade, she said. You know the unit. I know how to make a loud room hear a truth. You want the room loud, right? I want him reduced to the size of his choices, I said, and I want her to watch it happen. The diner smelled like onions and old coffee. She was not kind to me. She was not cruel either. She was exact. He is my problem to finish, she said. But if you want a clean ending, we can both work on it. No police if we can help it, no press, just the right people hearing the right thing. She showed me the DMs that started it. Lena had written first, a joke about a photo from a launch, a private laugh, then a meeting for coffee that was not on any calendar, then a nightcap that was not in any expense report. Step by step, one careful line into another until it braided into a rope. I told Tessa about the key duplication receipt and the directions. She went still. He planned to go to your place, she said. He did, I said. He did not get in. He will not get in again. After the diner, I walked home in a drizzle that did not commit to being rain. I felt better than I should have, not because I enjoyed anything, because math was lining up. When numbers line up, I can breathe. At home, I laid out the separation draft and made small changes in plain words. It felt like setting up a new office router after someone reset it without telling anyone. You start at 0, you label the ports, you test the signal, you do not celebrate when it works. You move on to the next ticket. I called my mother and did not say anything about anything. I asked how the old Subaru was doing, and she told me it made a sound like a kettle, and I told her to take it to Manny on Broad because he is honest. She asked if I was eating, and I lied and said yes. Her lie detector is worse than mine, and she let me have it anyway because that is love. Then I called my bank and put a note on the joint account that any withdrawals over a small amount needed both signatures. The woman on the phone sounded tired and kind. It took 3 minutes. Safety is sometimes a call center and a case number you write on a sticky note. He came at me first with words. When those did not land, he came with his shoulders. We pushed through the doors and into rain that turned everything into a smear. We ran because pride makes men run even when they should stop. The ferry dock groaned under the weight of old wood and new puddles. I led him along the grating where you can feel the water breathe below your feet. I had the bike lock looped at my belt. He had the gym bag. At the end of the dock, a big cleat squatted like a metal animal waiting to help. I waited for him to catch up so he would think he had me. Then I stepped in and hooked the bike lock through the gym bag strap and around the cleat and snapped it shut. He swung the crowbar and I knocked it aside with a life ring bracket bolted to the rail. The bag came off his shoulder and dropped. The lock held it by the strap. He grabbed too late, and the weight I stepped close and slapped him again, open hand, as loud as the alarm had been in the parking deck. It was the last punctuation mark I planned to use on him. Strike 3, I said. You should have read the rules. A harbor patrol boat slid in with its siren, whooping once like a referee clearing his throat. The security call from the lobby had done its work, summoning adults who wear badges and fill out forms. Tessa stood back by the pier entrance under a hood. Lena stood under the restaurant awning, soaked and shaking, watching like the world had turned to television, and she could not find the remote. "Release the bag," the officer shouted. Owen let go because humiliation is lighter than a wet gym bag chained to a dock. The bag sank, dragging the crowbar with it, and the lock tethered a strap that wriggled like something alive before it went still. 3 phones chimed at once, mine, Tessa's, Lena's. HR moves in packs when they move at all. The emails were short and plain. Termination for policy violations. Effective immediately. Return all property. Owen made a sound that was a sob trying to dress up as a cough. Tessa stepped close enough to be heard over the wind and held out a plastic sleeve that contained papers. "Sign at home," she said. "Or do not. It happens either way." Lena whispered my name, a prayer that had forgotten how prayer works. I looked at the water, at the bag fading under a thin smear of oil, at the cleat holding its small circle of order. I turned and walked away past Lena without looking at her face. "Home on Sunday, right?" I said as I passed. The words felt light, like I had set down something I had carried for a year without knowing. The wind blew hard enough to make the flags on the ferry line out like they were trying to leave the poles. I walked into it, and the rain took me whole, and it was fine. I heard the patrol boat before I saw it, the engine note like a chainsaw underwater. The officer made a short speech about releasing the bag and keeping our hands where he could see them. Owen released because he could feel every camera and every eye. The bag sank and took the long piece of metal where it belonged, in a place he could not use it to make a point about being a man. Tessa gave him the sleeve and a look that had no heat left in it. She had burned out a week earlier, and all that was left was clean light. I walked past her and said what I said. Home on Sunday, right? A joke that was not a joke. A receipt from the first lie. I kept walking because the only good exit is the one you take. I reached the sidewalk and paused under the dripping awning of a bait shop that sells more postcards than bait now. The window was fogged from a space heater that should have been replaced in the last century. Inside, a radio talked about tides like they were gossip. My hands shook in the way hands do when the moment is over and your body has time to translate what it just went through. I let them shake. It is bad math to pretend you are steel. A city bus hissed to a stop at the corner, and a handful of damp ghosts climbed aboard. The driver looked through me, and I looked through him, and it felt like a blessing. I did not want to be seen more than necessary tonight. A couple in matching rain boots argued in polite voices about whose turn it was to buy paper towels. It sounded like wealth. One of the harbor patrol officers stepped out of the rain and took off his cap and wiped his forehead with the inside of his wrist. He asked if I needed medical attention. I said no. He asked if I felt threatened. I said not anymore. He nodded and wrote a line in his book and thanked me for not being stupid. It is the nicest thing anyone had said to me in a week. The harbor patrol officer asked me if I wanted to make a statement. I said I would tell him everything he needed to know and nothing he did not. He nodded like he has heard that sentence 100 times from men who mean different things by it. I told him about a gym bag and a lock and a loud argument that never turned into a fight, because rules are stronger than rage when you honor them. He took notes in a small book that would live in a drawer forever unless someone asked the right question. The rain eased and then came back and then eased again, like the sky could not decide if it was ready to sleep. The ferry horn blew once, and a few tourists clapped because they think horns are performances. I walked past them and kept walking. My shoes made the sound wet shoes make. It did not bother me. It sounded like the end of something. It sounded like the start of air. As I reached the top of the ramp off the dock, I passed a father holding a small girl in a yellow raincoat. She stared at the flashing lights with the focus only kids have. Her father whispered something and she nodded. I hoped he said something simple like, "That man is going home." I do not believe in lessons you give strangers, but I believe in quiet sentences that hold up a day. Behind me, I heard the clatter of the lock being unlooped by a patrolman with a key from his belt. The chain came free, and he coiled it with the practiced motion of a person who puts away storms. Owen did not look at me. He stared at the water as if it owed him something. It did not. Water does not owe anyone anything. It just takes what gravity hands it and keeps moving. I reached the sidewalk and paused under the dripping awning of a bait shop that sells more postcards than bait now. The window was fogged from a space heater that should have been replaced in the last century. Inside, a radio talked about tides like they were gossip. My hands shook in the way hands do when the moment is over and your body has time to translate what it just went through. I let them shake. It is bad math to pretend you are steel. A city bus hissed to a stop at the corner, and a handful of damp ghosts climbed aboard. The driver looked through me, and I looked through him, and it felt like a blessing. I did not want to be seen more than necessary tonight. A couple in matching rain boots argued in polite voices about whose turn it was to buy paper towels. It sounded like wealth. One of the harbor patrol officers stepped out of the rain and took off his cap and wiped his forehead with the inside of his wrist. He asked if I needed medical attention. I said no. He asked if I felt threatened. I said not anymore. He nodded and wrote a line in his book and thanked me for not being stupid. It is the nicest thing anyone had said to me in a week.